Appreciate it. Appreciate it. Listen, every year that I come, this is the most exciting room that I step in, and it is why I cannot wait to come back. You all have more energy and more enthusiasm about South Carolina and about doing what's right than any group I've ever seen, and it is why you all inspire me so much, not only to come back, but to do more when I leave here to better South Carolina and to better myself. One of the things I want to talk about, because I've talked about in previous years what I experienced in the General Assembly, and I've talked about how I served with Senator Pinckney before he got killed, and I've talked about taking the flag down, but I want to go just a little bit further back this time and talk about my life and where I am now, where I found myself this weekend, and where I used to be when I was in elementary school. I went to a small elementary school in Columbia. It's not even there anymore. It's Wildwood. It was in the neighborhood Wildwood, but the school was Wildwood. And I was there with my older brother, and I was in a class of about 20, 25 kids, and I was the only black male in the class. And I remember the first school dance, and one of the teachers came running up to me, and she said, "Oh my God, your brother, he's a year older than you, and he can dance so well, and I can't wait to see you dance." And all I remember thinking was, I can't dance. He does a great job at it. He does a great job at everything. He's my older brother, but I can't dance. So later on, the next year, it was time to try out for basketball. And the coach came to me and he said, "Look, your brother's trying out for basketball, and I can't wait to get you on the court." I said, "I don't play basketball. I play soccer. I don't even know how to play basketball. I mean, I can dribble, but I'm a soccer guy." And I remember this feeling of inadequacy, that somehow I couldn't live up to the standard set by my older brother, but also somehow I couldn't live up to the standard that people thought of me because I was a young black kid at a school that did not have a lot of young black kids. And I say this because it matters not by race, but because all of you, each and every one of you, has something that you're supposed to do. And you look around and you may see this kid next door and he's found it. I mean, he is gifted. He can play football. He can play basketball. He is also running to be the president of the school. He does everything great, and you just simply ain't got there. And I look back as I moved into high school, and I ran to be the student body vice president. And I had all these ideas, and not stupid ideas like giving away free soda, but like real ideas, like I'm gonna change the school, I'm gonna make it better, I'm gonna make life grand for everybody that goes to this high school. And I lost. And then I moved forward, went to Howard, came back, and I came back to South Carolina from DC, and I looked at the lady that was representing House District 74, and she didn't seem to be in touch. She didn't seem to understand the issues of the day, so I said, I'm gonna run. So I put my hat in the ring, I started going out and doing fundraisers, I started going out and knocking on doors and talking to people, and she kicked my behind. And so I'm moving through life, and at every step of the way, I'm making progress, but I'm also not necessarily winning. I'm also getting to the point where if I chose, I could simply fall back and go and practice law. I was already a solicitor. I was prosecuting drug cases. I was having the time of my life, going into court any chance I wanted, getting in front of judges, felt like I was a big guy, but I still couldn't win that House seat. 4 years later, I ran again. And this time I took every single thing that I had learned from the 4 years prior when she had beat me, and everything that I learned losing for student body vice president, and everything that I had learned about what people thought that I was supposed to be, and I became me. And I decided that, you know what, I don't have to play basketball. I don't have to be able to dance, because what I do is I get in people's face. And I decide that I'm going to use my intellect and my intelligence to try and make South Carolina better. Because you don't have to dance to do that. You don't have to play basketball to do that. It is simply about learning as much as you can, figuring out how you're going to move that ball downfield, and knowing that you're not like anybody else, but it doesn't matter, because all you have to be is yourself. I've said it many times again, none of us were born to be normal. None of us were born to simply sit and do nothing. All of us, if we realize our full potential, you would be amazed at what you can do, and most of you have no clue what it is. You see, I found out this weekend that although I still cannot play basketball, I can wake surf. So I'm behind my boat, and I'm wake surfing, and I ain't young, but I'm pretty good at it. And I don't have to be able to dance, and I don't have to be able to play basketball. I bought a razor earlier this year, and I can drive the wheels off of that thing through the dirt because that's what I do. And it's not about, again, what I look like. It's about who I am. It's about being different and deciding that it may not be that you have seen what it is that you're good at. It may be that you are about to get there. It may be that you won't get there for 5 years, but I can tell you this, you will never get anywhere if all you do is wait for the first time you fail to not get back up. That is how you make a difference. That is how you change the world. That is how you change South Carolina. I am reminded as we deal with this SCANA situation, and I remember several years ago, 2007, when we were told that if we did this for SCANA, our electricity costs would come down, we would have these nuclear reactors, and the world would be a better place. And now we face a hole in South Carolina that we've got to fill with $9 billion in cash. It means very little to most of you, but it is what I deal with on a regular basis. And it is what I deal with because I'm one of the 3 conferees in this state on the House side that is faced with fixing this disaster for South Carolina. I'm one of the 3 people that the Speaker chose to deal with something of this magnitude. And again, not because I can dance and not because I can play basketball. I tell you these things because I expect that each and every one of you is going to go out and decide that I am going to be great, but it may not be today. So today what I'm going to do is sit and learn, sit and listen, sit and be better. Because if I can make that one step, that small step today, then when I'm called on 2 years from now to be great, I can actually do it. And what I can tell you is by virtue of being here, by virtue of being at Boys State, every single one of you will be great. Every single one of you is going to do great things, and every single one of you does not have to apologize for wanting more than what you have now. Every single one of you can go out there and say, this world is going to be a better place because I'm in it. And not only am I going to do this, I'm going to take the guy next to me, with me, and they're going to take me with them. Because that collective, that larger group that is Palmetto Boys State, is always moving the ball downfield, and that's what I expect of you. That's what I want you all to do. That's why I come back here every year, and that's why I came to speak to you tonight. So, that being said, I would love to take some questions from you all, so if you would please line up at the microphones and let's talk a little bit.
Okay, guys, first of all, we can do better than that. Can you thank Todd Rutherford for those words? Okay, we've done this once before, so you know how it's done. If you have a question, line up in the aisles, and we're gonna alternate. We'll start here with Dave Fleming, and guys, we would like for these to be intelligent and relevant questions. All right, introduce yourself, your name, the Boys State city, and then your hometown.
Good afternoon. Hello?
Okay, it's good.
Hello? Oh. Good afternoon.
Afternoon.
My name is Asara Buffalo. I hail from Greenville. My Boys State city is Edderstone.
All right.
And to you, Mr. Rutherford, what I'd like to ask is, this is probably a common question. Dealing with South Carolina's infrastructure, the roads specifically, what are you going to do about it? But not specifically that. Like, what do you suggest to deal with the corruption that is currently going on in the South Carolina Department of Transportation?
Asara, what I can tell you is that I was on the conference committee to deal with roads last year, 2 years ago, whenever that was, and we passed a gas tax. We passed the gas tax to try and take advantage of all those people that use South Carolina roads that don't pay South Carolina income taxes. The unfortunate part about that is that most South Carolinians, all they're going to pay for our roads right now, on average, about $18 a year. And that's what DOT said they wanted. That's what we gave them. It is simply not enough. What I can also tell you, and I want to be clear on this, because although this is an applause line, I can tell you that I have looked for fraud, waste, and abuse at the Department of Transportation. I haven't found it. I can simply tell you that there was not enough money. We cut their funding. We cut state employees overall by about 7,000. So we've got a number of issues in South Carolina, but fraud, waste, and abuse in state government typically is not it. What you see more often than not is corruption at the elected official level, not at the bureaucratic level. So I just wanted you to know that. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Jared, and I'm from right here in this town, Anderson, and I'm from the city of Wando. And I just have a simple question, but like, what do you push for the most as a politician?
I can't hear you. I'm sorry.
What do you push for the most as a politician?
What do I think people support them?
What do you push for,
Oh,
the
I'm sorry.
most
Okay,
as
okay.
a politician?
I don't know why yours is coming out of that speaker over there. What I push for more than anything is to make sure that everybody's got a shot. I believe that once we get on this earth, everybody should be treated as equals. And that doesn't mean giving away things. It simply means that everybody ought to have an equal shot at being successful. Everybody ought to have an equal shot in getting what they want out of life. And to take that away from somebody is the most damning thing that government can do. As an elected official, I believe it is my job to make sure that things are as equal across the board, that people are going to be successful at mechanics, people are going to be successful because they're engineers, people are going to be successful because they're doctors. But what we cannot do is take away education. What we cannot do is take away opportunity, and I believe too much of that goes on in South Carolina.
Good evening, sir. My name is John Acker. I'm from Bluffton, South Carolina, and my city is the great city of Eatery. I had the pleasure of meeting you last February, and I remember sitting at Mr. Herb Kurzman's desk. He told me y'all were working on the pension, and I was just curious, what were some of the most challenging things that you had to do to reach across the aisle to get the pension where it is now?
One of the, and that's a great question. Thank you for asking that. And I remember meeting you as well, and good to see you. One of the problems that a lot of people don't realize, our pension system was underfunded by about $40 billion. A lot of that came from the recession back in 2007. And as I stated, we lost about 7,000 state employees paying into the pension system. Because of that, we've had to make sure that we cut the number that we expected to make out of our investments so that they're more realistic, so that we can fund our system better. We can bring more state employees in. We can not just cut it and go into a 401k, because pensions are what a number of our retirees depend on in order to sustain their way of life. And if we can't fund it, then South Carolina is in trouble. We're going to go broke. And it's not going to be the place that it is now when you all get old enough, if you want to go into state government, to depend on that pension that so many people have had for so long. So again, thank you for the question. Good to see you again.
Hello. My name is Christian Hanna, and my boy state city is Reedy. Hey! I'm from Lake City, South Carolina, and my question is, with the dominant Republican Party trying to get this reformed tax code, how will tax cuts affect South Carolina, and how will the Senate help implement supplements to help the tax code help us?
So we're going back into session on June 22nd, and thank you for the question, in order to deal with that exact issue. The federal tax code changed. The state has got to change as well. Otherwise, we're going to penalize a number of South Carolinians. What we've got to make sure is that our tax system is progressive in nature, that the more money you make, the more that you pay. Any tax system that is regressive is going to fall in upon itself. We've got to make sure that we're not paying too much in sales taxes. When you buy something from the store and you're paying 8 and 10% in a sales tax, all it does is hurt business because you're less likely to go buy anything. We've got to make sure that our tax system is such that it encourages people to do better, that it encourages people to work harder, that it's not a tax system that is set up to only make it difficult to play gotcha with people that can't afford to pay their taxes in the end. So again, thank you for the question.
Hello, I'm Malcolm Gamble from Greeleyville, South Carolina, and my boy state city is Pacolet. Yeah. And my question is, what is the biggest challenge you face being the minority leader of the South Carolina House of Representatives?
The biggest challenge I face by being the minority leader is not being the majority leader. So that is probably the biggest challenge that I face. And if I can ever work my way into the majority, then South Carolina is going to be a better place. We're all going to be living in a better place, and I'll be a lot happier. But until then, a lot of it is simply getting people motivated, them to see in themselves their ability to do something greater than what they're doing now. And even elected officials who we say, listen, go out there and say something, go out there and do something, send out an email, hold a press conference, make a speech. Trying to encourage people to simply do more is my hardest job. And it's not just, again, young people. It's people that are in elected office. It is people that ought to know better, but still, a lot of people, and you'd be surprised by this, simply don't want to be successful. A lot of people are happy and content with the status quo, and that's why, again, you all impress me so much because you're not. Your desire to move the world, to move the ball downfield is going to take you so far and you don't even realize it, because when you get back home, you're surrounded by a lot of people who could care less about what they do tomorrow. That's why I love Boy State, so thank you so much for the question.
Good evening, sir. I am Jake Skinner from Hampton, South Carolina, and I'm with the great city of Coosahatchee over here. And my question for you tonight is, some 20 years ago, before you were in your current position, what primarily led to your drive and motivation to pursue this position?
You know, back 20 years ago, when I went to Howard, I lived in Washington, D.C. when D.C. was the murder capital of the nation. And it was not uncommon for me to hear shooting at night. It was not uncommon for me to see dead bodies laying on the sidewalk. It was not uncommon for me to see drug deals. It was not uncommon because D.C. was that bad a place back then. And so I felt like I had to get involved. I felt like I had to make a difference. I felt like many of you feel that life can be better than what it is now. And so when I got back home and I saw that I was represented by somebody that simply didn't share my ideals, that didn't share my push and my zest for life, that's what motivated me. I hope I've made a difference. I haven't had opposition now in 16 years, so I believe that I have. But again, this is all about keeping on going, making sure that we're trying every day, making sure that we're innovative, looking at new ideas and trying to figure out how to do it better than what we're doing now. Thank you again for the question.
Good evening. My name's Ian Douglas. I live down in Columbia, South Carolina, and my city is Columbia right there. And my question for you is, coming from being a solicitor, what was the hardest part of the transition from prosecuting and dealing with law to actually making the laws and putting them into legislation?
Yeah, part of it is from being a solicitor where I was in the courtroom and my job was to enforce the laws that were already in place, and I saw how ridiculous some of them are, and some of them still are. We are trying right now to do sentencing reform, to change on the state level what you see people working on the national level as well, because our drug weights are way out of whack, our sentencing is way out of whack with the rest of our southern states. And so I've been on a commission now for the past 4 years to try and figure out how to do it better. As a solicitor, my job was simply to enforce it and look at how silly it was. As a legislator, I can see how difficult it is to actually make changes that make common sense. Because just as it's common sense to you, and you think it makes sense, when you get up there and you try and pass it out as an idea, it doesn't always go well. So that's probably the biggest change that I've seen and the biggest problem that I still have.
Hey, I'm Sam LaRosa, and I'm from the great city of Wando, and I'm originally from Chapin, South Carolina. And all right, as you know, South Carolina is one of the lowest states in education in the nation. Coming from all the students in South Carolina, what things need changing to increase our state's ranking?
We are, and again, great question related to education. Education is the key. But if education is the key, we've got to stop changing the locks. We've got to make it so that we're going to be uniform across the board and recognize everybody does not learn the same way. Everybody does not go to school ready to learn. There are a lot of children across South Carolina that the only meal they get is the one that they get in school. And if that's the case, they're not going to be able to go to school ready to learn. We've got a number of kids in South Carolina whose parents don't have high school diplomas, whose parents work second and third shifts so that when they go home, there's nobody there. We have to recognize that because everybody's different, we've got to try and take our educational process and develop it to each one of those young minds if we're ever going to make a difference. We cannot do it just believing across the board that everybody learns the same, and if they don't, then it's their fault. We can do better, we've got to do better, and that's why we're last, and that's the only way we're going to move to first. Thank you.
My name's Henry Lear. I'm from Greenville and also from the city of Enoree right here. And I wanted to ask you, based on your involvement in the 5th District Solicitor's race, and a lot of the challenges that we see in the day-to-day with integrity in politics, what do you find is often the most common or easiest to fall into pitfall that a lot of politicians in South Carolina come across?
I think the biggest pitfall that I see, not just as a politician, but also as a lawyer, is giving people access to money without anybody checking. That there should be a system of check and balances at every level of the government because it is not our money. I think what is failing in the Fifth Circuit Solicitor's Office was we had a solicitor, this is my opinion, who simply had access to a credit card and nobody was checking behind him to see whether he was doing what he was supposed to do. I see that along the way, and I've seen that as I've been involved in other corruption trials throughout South Carolina and have represented other criminal defendants that had access to money and believed it could go unchecked. What I will tell you is that honesty and integrity counts, and it counts on every level, and it counts every day of the week, and it counts even when no one is watching. So thank you so much for that question. Thank you all again, Palmetto Boys State. I enjoy this every year. Thank you all so much.